Did you hear that 91% of guys that use Dove Men Plus Care antiperspirant recommend it? Dove Men Plus Care user James said that it has some kind of clever formula in their design to look after the pits. Guess that makes Dove Men Plus Care antiperspirant the smart choice then, James. Pick some up at your local retailer today.
Here we are. We are back in better than ever. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And we had football to watch last night with a couple of high-profile rookies getting their feet wet for two teams we think could be pretty good. Plus, we've got the final major championship of the golf year on the tee this morning as well. And my favorite entertainment story of the year, bar none, was in my timeline when I woke up today. You are going to love it. Big fella, how are we doing?
Doing well. Got to watch a little football last night. Certainly got it started last week with the Cowboys and the Cardinals in a Hall of Fame game, a game I was part of so many years ago. Didn't play. I was hurt at that point, but got to see that whole venue and all. But here we go. A bunch more games tonight, a rare Wednesday night game. And it was fun to watch, and it was fun to have an eye on, as I talked a lot about yesterday, guys at the back of the roster. This was fun to watch guys at the top of the roster are hoping to be the top guys, and in Christian McCaffrey for Carolina, the running back, and Deshaun Watson, the quarterback for Houston. And while we're going to get into that, I quickly want to know, there was a great story last night, and I'm going to put this over the football. David Quisenberry.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that story?
Of course.
David Quisenberry is an offensive tackle, and I remember watching him in the Senior Bowl in 2013 that year after that season, and I really liked him. I liked him. From San Jose State, wasn't from a big college, good-looking kid, good-sized kid. And he ended up from San Jose State, ended up going and had a good Senior Bowl, ended up going in the 6th round to the Houston Texans. That first year cost him because of a foot injury. But he didn't play the 3 years after that because he was battling cancer. For those 3 years, he missed his first year with a foot injury and the next 3 years battling cancer. And the Texans kept him around. They would waive him when he cleared waivers, bring him back, non-football injury list. Last night, he played.
Yep.
Last night was his first game in 4 years, the first time he was able to play football. He finished his chemo this past April, got involved in all the off-season activities, and this was the first time back on the field. His family surprised him in going there. He said he got pretty emotional when he saw that. The players had nothing but praise for this guy. And so to me, I put that as the top of this, because whether he makes a team or not, we'll see. But for that battle and that fight and to be back on the field doing what he loves to do, but going through what he went through. And as he said, all of my teammates saw what I went through, from the chemo to losing my hair to losing weight to gaining it back, and the battle to get back on the field. To me, that's the best story of last night, that David got back on the field.
Yeah, no argument out of me. Some things are far more important than the football. There is plenty to get to.
Yes, sir.
With the football, though, we will in just a moment. But let's start off the top where the Dodgers win again. They beat the Diamondbacks. They win their 80th game in just 113 tries this season.
Yep, the quickest they've ever reached that mark in franchise history. How about this as well? This may be even more impressive. They trailed 2-1 in the game, and they won the game. So they moved to 34-33 in games they've trailed at any point. With a win percentage of .507 there, it's better than 18 teams have overall. The last team to finish with a winning record in games they trailed at any point was the 98 Yankees. They went 50-48. So they're doing it when they have the lead. They're coming back when they don't have the lead. They are just absolutely on fire.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Ryan Zimmerman drove in 5 last night in a 10-1 win over the Marlins, and he now, Golick, is the franchise all-time leader.
Broke a tie with Tim Wallach to take over sole possession of first place on the Nationals Expos all-time RBI list. Certainly going to continue to climb up the ranks. He's the leader for the Nationals and Expos in home runs and in RBIs and in doubles as well. He becomes one of 3 active players who is its franchise's all-time leader in home runs and RBIs. Evan Longoria with the Rays and Giancarlo Stanton with the Marlins. But, you know, the Nationals and Expos franchise been around a little longer. They've existed for 49 years. Marlins and Rays, they've existed for a combined 45 years.
That's an interesting little stat there, to have the players that are the greatest in the categories in the history of their respective franchise. All right, the golf begins today. The PGA Championship, and let's go Jordan Spieth. He has one chance and one chance only to become the youngest player ever to win the Triple Crown.
First, he would be the sixth men's golfer in history to win the to have a career Grand.
I said Triple Crown. You're right.
Yeah.
Grand Slam.
Grand Slam that I can't even say at this point, which is obviously each of the majors at least once. He is 24 years old and just 17 days. The youngest now is Tiger Woods, who was a little over 24 and a half years old. So that's what he's shooting for right now. So shockingly enough, he's not the favorite. Rory McIlroy, who plays well at Quail Hollow, is
correct.
The favorite in the 7-1. Jordan Spieth is 8-1. All the regulars you think, the Dustin Johnsons, Ricky Fowlers, Jason Days are in that group as well. But it's Rory as the favorite, but Spieth looking to make that young history.
Right. Mickelson plays very well on this course as well. We'll talk to Andy North about it off the top of the next hour. But by the time they get to the next PGA,
he'll be older than
Spieth
Tiger.
will be older than Tiger. So this is his one shot to be the youngest ever
Off the top.
to do it. Okay, Martavis Bryant is back, Mike. He's cleared to practice and play in the preseason. It's a conditional reinstatement, but you have to believe if everything goes well, he'll be on the field for the Steelers week 1.
Multiple drug violations, so he was out the whole year, was actually told to get off the practice field at the beginning of camp, couldn't practice with the team, but he's done everything the league has asked. So now, as Greeny said, the league has said, okay, you can practice in the preseason, you can play in the preseason games, you're not cleared to play in the regular season yet, but I agree with you. I'd imagine if he keeps going the way he's going, that he is going to be allowed. And let me tell you, that's a big weapon for them to get. They have Antonio Brown, we know that, but that would be a nice weapon for them to get back on the field if he can keep doing what he's doing.
Oh, absolutely. That you put him back in that mix, and they missed him last year with Antonio Brown, with Le'Veon Bell, with a healthy Ben, and that's always a question mark because of all the hits that he takes. But there's no reason to think they shouldn't be as good as any offense in the AFC.
Off the top.
And that brings us to the game last night. And let's pause on that thought here, make it off the top and what everybody's talking about. Brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day, because I want to get into this game. Because as our buddy Mark Schlereth always said, these games don't count, but they matter.
Right.
And I know that you always watch, and for understandable reasons, you were a 10th-round draft pick.
Right.
You watch late in these games to see all these guys battling to make rosters. For most of us, what's really interesting are quarterback battles, and there are some of them around the league, and one of them is in Houston, where Tom Savage got the start last night and was pretty good, and then Deshaun Watson came in and I thought was very good, and that is going to be an interesting to watch all the way through the next month.
As I said all along, I thought Deshaun Watson, I would have taken him as the first quarterback, not just because I think he could have played earliest, but I just trust him, and I would trust him going forward as well. First, Tom Savage, listen, 9 of 11, 69 yards. So, it wasn't whipping the ball down the field, but, and he was certainly under pressure, especially early in the game. That O-line, for the Texans struggled a little bit with protection, and he was dodging some bullets back there. But he certainly did fine. And then Deshaun Watson came in, and I tell you what, I love the way they started the game with him. Rollout. First play, little half rollout, basically no thinking involved. Get your feet wet. Move a little bit with your legs. If you get quick pressure, you can dump the ball. If not, usually you have one of those dragging receivers coming over the top that's usually wide open, either mid-range or short. He hit the short receiver. Easy completion. No problem at all. So I really like the way they started that. Second play looked like a rookie. Second play was a seam route up the middle. He knew the safety was coming down to play, and he overthrew with a wide open receiver. Third play, he did a nice job. The pocket collapsed around him. He rolled out to the right, hit a receiver. The receiver had stepped out of bounds and come back inbounds, so it was incomplete. But he was as advertised, and what I saw in college. He doesn't get rattled. He's smooth. He hung in the pocket even when it was collapsing a bit and waited to get out until he needed to get out. He didn't have antsy feet, had a nice touchdown run. We know he can move. So I ended up going 15-25, so that 60% completion. The best thing about all of that, the absolute positive best thing is today. He has tape. He now has tape to watch. And there's all the little things that you don't see when you're watching the game on TV that he and the coaching staff will get to break down. What were you looking at? Why did you look here? Why did you throw here? You had an open guy. Why why overthrow? Was it the safety? Did you get spooked by him? What are the reasons that you did what you did? That's the great learning curve for him right now, is he now has tape to go over. I think that's one of the most important things.
Well, look, I have to believe that Bill O'Brien in his heart of hearts would love to see him win this job.
Yeah.
And if you look at the lack of quarterback consistency that the Texans have had under O'Brien, you know the stat. They've had 8 different starting quarterbacks under O'Brien going back to only 2014, the most in the league in that time. And you would think that means, well, but they've been in the playoffs every year.
Yeah, they have.
I mean, they make the playoffs every single year, win a bad division every year without any stability at all at the quarterback position. If Watson wins this job, he'll be the 9th different starting quarterback in 3 seasons and 1 game. And yet, it feels like they've got a championship caliber team around him. So to try and do that around a rookie would be something else, but it might be their best bet.
And we'll see, because some of his throws were bad throws. You know, he had the critical part of his game was sometimes that mid-range or longer pass, and some were flat out ugly. I mean, they just weren't near the receiver. So that's another thing you see on tape, so that he's going to see on tape, but that had kind of followed him from college. So there's certainly a lot of work to do. If you're going to sit here and ask me, did he win the starting job last night? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say you saw what you saw out of him. He can move. He doesn't get rattled. He can make plays, but he also has some inaccuracies as well that he has to work through.
Yeah, he's got 3 more weeks to try and win the job. I think he showed you the signs of what it is that make people excited about him. You saw all of that on display last night, and if he looked like a rookie, if he is a rookie playing in his first preseason game, it would make sense that he would look like a rookie.
Without a doubt. The interesting thing on the other side to me with Christian McCaffrey is he didn't have 1 catch. You know, this is a guy you keep talking about. How much was it over on the internet when he went one-on-one in practice against Luke Kuechly and caught it and juked him and all that? It was like, oh, my God, him out of the backfield catching the ball. He didn't have 1 catch last night. 7 carries, 33 yards, tucked in behind nicely. I'll show you a little bit later. Tucked in behind some lineman, does a nice job of that in between the lines going outside. He loves to have some moves to try and juke a little bit. But I think he also found out last night that some of those jukes don't work as well at this level. You know, you just have better athletes here, and some of the moves that sprung you loose in college aren't going to work here. But I thought he did a nice job. There were big questions about him. Can he go between the tackles if he has to? And he, as I said, he tucked in nicely behind some of his old linemen to get some yards. He's a good-looking kid, running the ball wide, having some moves, has the speed to turn the corner, and does have a good start and stop on him.
Look, we'll see what Carolina's going to be when Cam comes back, and that's – you know, I'm not sure exactly at what point you start to worry about that, but it feels like very soon will be the point where you start to worry about
Cam Newton and Andrew Luck.
Right.
I mean, 2 of you top quarterbacks, young quarterbacks in the league. These guys have shoulder issues, throwing shoulder issues at a young age. Yeah, you're absolutely right when you start to raise an eyebrow a little
Let's circle back, however, for the moment to what we saw from Deshaun Watson last night. Our friend Louis Riddick was watching closely.
Bill O'Brien, first of all, for Deshaun Watson, was calling plays right off the bat that you know he probably got with him before the game and said, look, these are the things that you do well. Mm-hmm. These are the things I know that you're comfortable with based on what you did in college. This is what you've looked good at so far in camp. We're going to get you hot right out of the gate. First thing they do, they move the pocket. Play action boot, get him out on the perimeter, let him run a little bit, let him concentrate on half the field. And that is what the thing that he really excelled at Clemson. Then when things broke down a few times, you saw very good pocket awareness. One of the things that you didn't see with RG3 as his career started to progress and then go downhill. Pocket awareness, something he really struggled with. Deshaun showed that tonight. When he had to operate from the pocket, he stood in there tall, stood in there strong, was not afraid of the rush, kept his eyes down the field, and put some balls on the money here, and especially at the end of that third quarter where they had like a 15-play drive that ended in his 15-yard scramble there for the touchdown. Tremendous poise. All the things that you saw coming out of Clemson that we all lauded him for, and all said this is what he is, he showed tonight, which is exactly how you want it to start off.
Completely agree. I mean, because you want to see, you would expect a rookie their first time in the NFL. There's going to be some jitters. How do you handle the lights? And I completely agree. And I said it earlier, is they did a great job of putting him in position to be comfortable with his plays early on, knowing what he can do and putting him in position to do those things. As I said, some bad throws, and you work through that. Nobody is perfect, no doubt about it. But I do like the way, just as Lewis said, that he stood in the pocket when he needed to. He took some hits. He didn't bail right away. Those are the things outside of the stat you look for. You look for the big word is poise. Do they have happy feet? Especially a guy that can use his legs to do some damage, as you saw on the 15-yard touchdown run. Does he rely on it too much? Does he bail out if the pocket's collapsing too soon? And he hung in there. He took some hits to make some throws down the field. So to me, he was as advertised, both on the good side and where his deficiencies are as well. We saw that.
I think that it also is a testament to the value of a guy who has just played that much in college.
Completely agree.
He comes into the NFL so much more ready, at least to do that, than the other guys will. When you see Trubisky get get thrown out there with his 13 games of experience. And if and when we see some of the other young guys in there, Mahomes and Kaiser and others, and we've seen it going back to Mark Sanchez, these guys who did not play a lot in college, it sounds obvious to say, but all experience matters, and so he's a lot more ready to go than a lot of these other guys probably will look in their first test. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. You can test drive Snapshot to see how much you could save before switching to Progressive. Visit progressive.com/snapshot. Tons and tons more football that we'll get to coming up shortly. But I find myself interested in this story. I find myself probably disproportionately interested in this Mayweather-McGregor fight. I'm almost embarrassed.
Well, you're going to buy it, so.
Well, a lot of people are going to buy it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're already thinking about it now. It doesn't mean that anytime anything flashes on their timeline about it, they immediately go to it. I find myself intrigued by this entire thing, in spite of myself, in spite of my understanding that it makes me a sucker and a boob. I am still incredibly interested. And here's an actual sports part of the story. They're fighting in the state of Nevada, and the Nevada State Athletic Commission will at least entertain the possibility of letting Mayweather and McGregor wear lighter boxing gloves in their highly anticipated fight later this month in Vegas. The executive director of the Athletic Commission confirmed to ESPN yesterday both fighters have submitted official requests to wear 8-ounce gloves for their fight on August 26th. Per Nevada regulations, any fight contested above the weight of 147 pounds, have to use 10-ounce gloves. Right. This one is going to be at 154. So they would have to wear 10-ounce gloves. They have both petitioned to want to wear lighter gloves. Here's a quote. Both camps have submitted a waiver by the date we requested. The commission will hear both camps' reasoning as to why it should deviate from its regulations. The chairman will then lead a conversation to blah, blah, blah. Arguments in favor of smaller gloves will have to be weighed against potential concerns regarding health and safety, which is the utmost importance to this commission. So what do you make of this?
Well, I make of it, first, I understand the rule. The lighter guys, you can use the smaller gloves. The bigger you get, the harder the punches. You don't want a smaller glove because you're talking about health, getting hit in the head an awful lot with a smaller glove. I'm sure McGregor, if I were him, I would have started out saying, all right, we'll do your sport of boxing, but use my gloves in MMA.
None.
Or none. He would have loved, I think they're 3 or 4 ounces, or 4 ounces in MMA. So I'm sure he would have loved that. So there's no doubt he would want a smaller glove to make you feel the punch more. And, as far as Mayweather, listen, I'm not a boxing aficionado to know all the ins and outs of this, but I do know, a glove 2 ounces heavier on each hand over 12 rounds, 2 ounces may not sound like a lot, but it's more you're holding up, for all that time. And I'm sure you'd like to feel the punch as well, even though Mayweather's not known as a knockout guy. He has talked about being more aggressive in this fight, and I'm sure he believes, because he's going against a guy who's not a professional boxer by trade, that he may have more openings, and he wants his punches to land and punches to feel. I'm just guessing at that. I completely understand it from McGregor's side of it, completely. I may need a little more of a professional in that sport to let me know why Mayweather would say, okay, yeah, I'll go smaller gloves as well. I'm just kind of guessing there.
I'm still picturing Apollo Creed in Rocky I, where he's not even paying attention, and his manager is saying he doesn't know it's a damn show. He thinks it's a damn fight. Everything that Mayweather does, I can't make up my mind whether it is actually for the competition or if it's just something he's trying to use to sell it.
To me, everything
Floyd
is to sell it.
This? Is Floyd saying he'll wear lighter gloves so that the world will say, ooh, I tell you what, one punch and you never know. I mean, this is a lighter glove than he's used to. One punch and you never know.
Yep.
And is he actually so confident that, as our friend Max Kellerman, who has forgotten more about boxing than I'll ever know, Max says, if Mayweather doesn't want McGregor to hit him once, he won't. No, I can't independently
That's tough to believe, but hey,
that's
Max
what he says.
Right.
If it is indeed the case that Mayweather is so convinced of that he's not even the least bit worried about it,
then put on whatever
gloves you want.
During this 4-tour stop, Mayweather actually said he'd wear the 4-ounce gloves that. I don't know, but that would be a smart move. But he said he'd wear the 4-ounce gloves that they wear in MMA.
Yeah, they said a lot of
remember
things.
Remember those? If you see those gloves, the fingers are kind of open on that, and the 4-ounce padding on the gloves. Yeah, they did say a lot in those press tours to try and sell this thing. But I can absolutely see it from McGregor's side, no doubt about it.
Do you think that they let? I can't believe I'm even asking this, but do you think they let them do it? I mean, this is like it's not. It's a boxing match, and so it's being officially sanctioned by this commission. But it's just a pure show.
Here's
let them do what they want, right?
I don't think the boxing commission's decision is going to weigh. It's not like, oh, 10-ounce gloves? Well, I'm not buying that fight. I don't think that's going to happen.
I agree.
So I don't know what they – I don't know will they – because obviously if you – and another thing I don't know, is this requested a lot? Is this something that's done a number of times? Do other fighters request the 8-ounce gloves over the 10-ounce when they're heavier? That I don't know. Because if it doesn't happen a lot, and that's something we can obviously find out, is it something that the Boxing Commission doesn't want to start doing? Because if they ask to do it, then other groups will do it. But maybe it is done a lot. Again, I don't know. Maybe it's done a lot and they turn it down a lot. Though that's part of the story that I don't really know.
I've just read through the rest of the story. There is no mention of whether this is something that is commonplace or not. One way or another, we'll see. All right, we're just getting started. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Great guest list today. Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We got Andy North live from Quail Hollow as we get set for the PGA Championship. We got Brian Billick talking football today, and Damian Woody and our old buddy Michael Irvin and others. And coming up, one team with Super Bowl aspirations may be trying to trade for a quarterback right now.
Guys don't really talk about antiperspirant. Despite that, 91% of Dove Men Plus Care users recommend it. Here's what they said.
It blocks the, perspiration, I think is the fancy word.
It's comfortable. It smells nice. My girl likes the smell.
Well, I don't know. It's hard.
I think it's quite masculine. My underarms aren't the worst thing at the gym.
It's kind of like the Hoover Dam from my armpits, I guess.
Dove Men Plus Care antiperspirant. Tough on sweat, not on skin.
Well, Greeny, we're halfway through another baseball season, and we're really seeing some players who stand out as winners.
Kind of like business travelers who win at business by staying at La Quinta Inns and Suites.
That's because you can put your La Quinta Returns loyalty points to work on the spot with instant free nights.
Just drive up with no reservation and instantly redeem points for a free night that same night simply by using the La Quinta app.
It's like hitting a grand slam.
With an app instead of a bat.
Well played.
Prepare to win at business by learning more about instant free nights and check out the summer rates at lq.com. You got Jordan? You got Rory? You got somebody else? Who do you like?
Man, Dustin Johnson started off the year so well, and he just kind of...
And he fell down a flight of stairs at Augusta, and that was that.
That was the end of that. Yeah, you know what? Jordan's playing for that immortality. I mean, of a group. We say that nobody can we don't think can match what Tiger did for that decade or so. Well, here's a guy that can have a better start as far as youngest to getting all the majors in. So I'd like to see that get done. I always like when new things are done like that, so we'll see.
I don't want them to add a fifth major. I know that they're moving the PGA Championship to May, and I understand the thinking behind that. That, I think, is really being driven more than anything else by a desire to grow their FedEx Cup.
Right.
The thing that they do at the end. I feel a need to explain that because I think a lot of casual fans don't even know that exists.
Yep.
But it's sort of their version of the chase. They tried to model it on NASCAR's chase for the championship, which has been such an enormous success for them. With golf, I think people focus so they're going to move that thing up into August so it doesn't compete with football, which in and of itself I think is a sensible thing to do. But I don't think it's going to make people excited about that.
No. I listen. You're different than me in golf. I like it more than a casual fan, but I am not really interested in the FedEx Cup.
No, I'm not especially
it doesn't really
either.
Do much for me at all.
Me neither. I'm not any more necessarily interested in those events than I am any others. I'll watch if it's on.
Right.
But I watch the majors much more so. It's the majors and the Ryder Cup are what most people really are into when it comes to golf. So the conversation has been: do they add a fifth major? Do they make the Players Championship a major? People have sort of called it the fifth major for a long time. Do they actually make it a major? And the concern with that is it throws all the records completely out of whack.
I don't know why you would do that.
Just to try and bring a little more. Otherwise, you're looking at a span now
longer span,
where your major championships are going to be played over a 3-month period, and then you've got 9 months of the year where you don't have any of that. In a non-Ryder Cup year, people will just go away.
Right?
So that, I guess, is the concern. All right. Anyway, we'll talk to Andy North about it in a little bit. Some Twitter reaction, 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. A lot of people pointing out to us, Mike, including this one from James. Mayweather has fought at 147.
So he's used those gloves.
So he's accustomed to those gloves throughout his career.
Good point. Yep.
So it would not be unusual for him. It might actually be more comfortable.
More comfortable is what he's used to doing,
For him. Bob tweets at us, the reason he doesn't care about the size of the gloves is because he's not going to get hit. Don't you understand that?
Okay, Bob, thanks. Thanks, champ.
Is he not going to get hit at all?
No, that's ridiculous. To me, that's a ridiculous statement to say he will not get hit one time. Now, what maybe your definition of a hit hard, a jarring hit, whatever your definition, to think that not, I mean, I know that McGregor is not a professional boxer, but he boxes as part of what he does. So to think he is not going to land a punch, to me, is ridiculous. I do think he's going to land a few punches in this thing.
We'll see, one way or another. And then some Twitter reaction to Deshaun Watson's performance last night. CMH tweets at us, Deshaun still has some things to work on, but he's better than Savage. Big Mike tweets at us, could Deshaun be the steal of the draft? He was a first-round pick, but I guess you could still call him that considering all the guys that went ahead of him.
It's certainly possible. It wasn't the first quarterback pick, but
wasn't even the second.
A steal in the middle of the first round is tough to say. A first round, there's still expectations. It's just a matter of when you realize those expectations. So I don't know if I would go that far to it. And I don't know if I'm going to sit there and say right now insert him in there and he will lead the team better than Tom Savage. Because give it a little more time. I'm not making the decision after one game last night.
All right, meanwhile, the Denver Broncos are the team that I was referring to in my tease as a team with Super Bowl aspirations that may be trying to trade for a quarterback. Now, the quarterbacks on their roster include Trevor Siemian, who started 14 games for them last year, Paxton Lynch, who started 2, and then a couple of other rookies, including Chad Kelly, who's a well-known name, but of whom not much is expected, certainly not this year. So there was a report that the Broncos were aggressively pursuing a trade for A.J. McCarron, who is the highly thought-of backup in Cincinnati. The team, through sources, has strongly denied that report. And as the story that I'm reading here says, as they should, even if it's true. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But I guess the point is, if you're Denver, if you're John Elway, and you don't have confidence, I don't know if that necessarily means you're admitting a mistake with Paxton Lynch, or just that everyone said when he was drafted it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
So maybe 1 year is not long enough. Now, John Elway himself tweeted, rumor of us being interested in anyone other than the quarterbacks we have is another example of irresponsible fake news, which is the sentence du jour.
The go-to line.
But let's see. One way or another, what do you make of it?
Here's the deal. If in fact it is true and you're looking at trading for an A.J. McCarron who's a young quarterback, I think you have to look at it and say, was Paxton Lynch the right move to make? Was that the guy? I'll keep repeating, though, you don't draft a guy, even in the first round, at quarterback, to be a star his first year. In this case, his second year. You want them for the next decade. But at some point, do you need to start seeing a return? If it's not even the first round, you even go in the second round with like a Christian Hackenberg with the Jets. You're like, okay, you didn't take him in the first, but you took him in the second.
Sure.
Let's start to see what we got here. You can't the old 3 to 5 year waiting period. That it doesn't happen. It's a joke anymore. You got to either get going right away during that first year, or if not, by that second year, you got to have a little more command at what's going on. I certainly had my thoughts and worries about Paxton Lynch, and I said him when that draft was going on. I would not have taken him in the first round, but we'll see. But if you trade for a young quarterback, you're not trading, for McCarron like you are for Jay Cutler for. Fill in this year, come in, know the system, and we'll go from there. With A.J. McCarron, you might be saying, well, this could be our guy. And if that's your guy, that means your first-round pick isn't your guy. So that would be saying, we may have missed on this one.
Or you may be saying, I've got a Super Bowl caliber defense, and I just need
someone right now
who can do a little better than what we have here. We'll see. Okay, so that's one. Again, John Elway's calling it fake news. Let's see what winds up happening. Elsewhere, and another quarterback note, there was a story earlier this week that I think the most important piece of it was overlooked, and that is we saw an interview in which Johnny Manziel said that he's considering coming back, or that he would be interested in coming back as a coach, coming back and coaching,
college coach,
probably on the college level. And unspoken in that, I guess, is all these quarterback conversations, all these openings, all these teams, all the discussion about Miami needing a quarterback and where will Colin Kaepernick go and his team and all that, his name doesn't even come up.
No.
Never. Never even mentioned for a second. And so that leads to the question, is it over? Is it just done? Is the notion of him coming back and playing in the NFL over, which wouldn't surprise me? And if it is, do we have to start talking about one of the great busts of all time for a guy to win the Heisman, to be as highly touted as he was, to be a first-round pick and start only 8 games in the whole history of the NFL in quarterbacks, I should say, drafted from 1990 through the present time? There were only 3 quarterbacks drafted in the first round who started fewer games than Manziel. Jim Druckenmiller only started 1.
Right.
Dan McGuire started 5. Andre Ware started 6. Todd Marinovich and Johnny Manziel started 8. By comparison, Jamarcus Russell started 25.
Yeah.
Now, he was the first pick in the draft.
We'll go down.
Johnny was 22nd.
Yeah.
But here's a guy who came in with as much hype, forgetting where he was drafted, but he was a first-round pick, and as much hype as anybody. His jersey was outselling Tim Tebow's jerseys, and he's going to wind up starting 8 games and go away and never be heard from again.
Well, listen, it would not surprise me because much like when Tim Tebow went in the first round and Johnny and Manziel went in the first round, I couldn't believe it, as a lot of people couldn't. But it only takes one team to make the move. But there were a lot of people that thought neither one of those guys should be first-round picks anyway. They were, in fact, not first-rounders, but later in the draft picks to me. So them going in the first round was ridiculous, and it kind of bared itself out there. In all honesty, now Tim Tebow was dealing with the fact that he was struggling at that position, no doubt about it, and that was been the main thing. And we know what followed wherever Tim Tebow went. But, he struggled at the position. And for Johnny Manziel, he struggled at the position, and he's got all the offseason off the field issues going on as well. If these guys wanted to play in the NFL, they're in a position you need to show something, okay? Because they didn't. They both showed they struggled passing the ball. So you're in a position, in my mind, you want to play. I mean, Tim Tebow didn't want to change positions, certainly his right, to the point now where he's in baseball. But people were saying it about him, and people say it about Manziel. You want to show you could pass, go play in Canada, where they throw the ball all the time. Go play there. I know there's a 2-year thing there, but see what you can work around. But a 2-year, show you can throw the ball. You showed for Johnny Manziel, you showed you don't throw it very well. You show you have issues. Go be somewhere where you can prove you throw the ball and don't have any issues. But he hasn't, so who's taking a chance? Who's looking at him and saying, yeah, last we saw of him wasn't a whole lot, and he's not shown me anything. Okay, he's showing some video of him working out in the sand somewhere. That's not going to make me sign him. Now, a team could do that, and because it's no great loss if you end up cutting him. You're not like you're costing you a lot of money. But again, is he worth bringing what comes to town with him, even if it's for a short time? I don't know why. If these guys truly want to say, you know what, I can play quarterback in the NFL. Right now, nobody thinks I can play in the NFL. If you really want to, go throw in Canada. Bigger field, whip the ball all over the place. Go show you can throw. And I bet you'd have a job in the NFL, or at least a shot to have a job in the NFL if you go prove you can throw the ball.
I wonder how many quarterbacks, I don't know if this is something that could be looked up quickly or not, have been drafted in the first round and been completely out of the league this fast. It's 3 years, 3 seasons. And he's out of the league, and his name didn't even come up.
No,
I mean,
not at all. Not even
all the it didn't even occur to me.
No,
like until his name came up in connection with the coaching, I didn't even think of him.
Right.
And then now I said, wait a minute, he's a coach now? I thought, what happened to him trying to be a quarterback? It seems like everyone has just given up on that very notion. All right, we're Mike and Mike. Coming up next, we will analyze the fine line that separates stupid from sensible.
I know what side I'm on.
Back to school time already? It sure is. Sport Clips Haircuts wants you to leap to the head of the class with our giveaway of back-to-school gear plus a year of free haircuts. Visit Sport Clips for the right cut and ask for the MVP experience. Then we'll take care of the rest. After all, winning hair isn't everything. It's the only thing. Review the rules and enter to win at sportclips.com/back-to-school. Sport Clips. It's good to be a guy. No purchase necessary. Ends August 25th, 2017. Must be 18 or older. Subject to official rules at sportclips.com. Void where prohibited.
Few other tweets through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Andrew tweets, lack of interest in the FedEx Cup is because of football and the end of baseball season. I would pay more attention in July and August. I think that's what they're banking on.
That certainly could play, yes.
So we'll see if they do. Chris tweets, I have a bet that in 3 years, Bears fans will wish they had drafted Watson. What do you think my chances are to win?
Listen, I had said Deshaun Watson would have been my first quarterback taken in this draft. So I could see that. I mean, let's wait and see what Trubisky does. Again, just 13 starts, but he's a good-looking kid throwing the ball. Got an arm to throw it everywhere. But look at the difference of experience in college between Deshaun Watson and Mitchell Trubisky. Obviously, the Bears think the ceiling is higher for Trubisky. That's why they took him and where they could go. That's why I always say let's pull the reins. Even if Deshaun Watson starts, don't everybody just automatically start saying, oh, he should have been the number one guy taken. Let's see in 2 years, in 5 years, in 7 years where these are. That's what you're taking a number one quarterback for. You're taking him for longevity.
And at Aiello and Sons tweets at us, that's what alcohol and drugs will do. It'll ruin your career, referring to Johnny Manziel. I got another stat here, and a good job by Paul Carr getting this for us quickly. Quarterbacks dating back to those drafted in 1990, there were only 4 quarterbacks who were drafted in the first round who only played in 2 NFL seasons. Doesn't mean they weren't on a roster necessarily, but actually only got into games in 2 NFL seasons, and they are Jim Druckenmiller, Todd Marinovich, Cade McNown, and Johnny Manziel. I mean, we don't look at it that way because I'm not even sure why. Everything with him just sort of feels a little different than it does with everybody else. But at some point, we have to start putting it into context with him among the greatest busts has ever been, right?
Right up there. I mean, he'll be in the conversation. Yeah, I still think it's Jamarcus Russell.
Because he went number 1. Now, Russell started 25 games. Manziel started 8.
He did.
Russell went first, and Manziel went 22nd.
Certainly
so
a difference there. But I guess, and so many people obviously got blinded by Jamarcus Russell. His size was incredible, and I think he made his career beating Notre Dame in a bowl game. I think it was a bowl game, or it was a bowl game. Just torched them.
You lost a bet on that, by the way.
Oh yeah, without
had to sing the LSU fight song.
Yes, I did. But with Manziel, now that's one again. It's not shocking to me. Maybe shocking that he's going to be completely out of football, what issues you never foresee issues off the field. We knew he was this fun-loving guy that everybody loved in college. Everybody loved what he was doing in college, and then when he got to the pros, and all of a sudden you're hearing him saying, "Yeah, I didn't really study the playbook when I was a backup quarterback," and he was flying out to Vegas. So all those fun things in college all of a sudden aren't so fun when you have to be a pro and you're not doing them, and these are the results.
Yeah, let's make that
on the field.
Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Do you believe we have seen the last of Johnny Manziel on a football field?
Oh, I do, yeah. Because
I
don't think he's willing to go anywhere else to show he can throw the ball. I think he may work out and just try and have these workout videos and show teams he's working. Again, it won't cost you much to bring him in, but I'll be honest, I don't think it's happening. Don't think it's happening.
I mean, that's really remarkable for a guy to be as highly touted as he was, as talked about as he was, as big a star as he was. And while, yes, there were many who had their doubts about him as a pro, including you and me, there were people who were saying he should have been the number 1 pick in the draft. I mean, there were people who thought he was going to be an NFL star. Jerry Jones thought he was going to be an NFL star. I mean, he got talked out of that and took an offensive lineman who might be the best player in the whole league.
Yeah.
But the point is, there were people on that bandwagon.
Without a doubt.
He came in with as much fanfare as any player in recent NFL memory.
He did.
And in 2 seasons, he's out of the league
He was a show.
He
was a show because he was a personality as well. He was a kid who had a ball in college, played well at the college level, and everybody kind of loved how he kind of just went and did his own thing. So, yeah, there was a whole lot of hype coming into it, and that just shows you what the difference or some of the big differences from college to the NFL.
Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Okay, I'm going to save my stupid, sensible thing for the top of the hour, so let me give you, as promised, my favorite entertainment story of the year, bar none, was in my timeline this morning, and you are going to love it.
Okay.
So I think I told you that I saw Groundhog Day. The movie the classic movie Groundhog Day starring Bill Murray has been turned into a Broadway musical. And it's good. It's not great, but it's good.
Okay.
And my kids, Stace and I took the kids to see it a few months ago. So there was a big story that I was reading yesterday that 2 nights ago, Bill Murray went to see it.
Okay.
For the first time. And obviously, it's a huge deal that Bill Murray is there to see Groundhog Day. And there were all sorts of stories about how he had tears in his eyes at one point, and he went up on stage and met all the actors. And it was just great, right? Very cool.
Absolutely.
So that was a nice story. I wake up this morning. Last night, he went again. So on consecutive days, he went to see Groundhog Day. How many days in a row do you think he'll do it? For those of you who know the plot of Groundhog Day, it is that you do the same thing day after day after day. And so, of course, there were a million Twitter jokes that were going on and out there about Bill Murray going back the second night. But how great would it be if he just keeps going every night for a while?
I think everybody gets the joke now that he went back the second time. I think he's done.
Maybe. Yeah. But how great is that?
Oh, yeah, that is pretty cool. That is a very cool. That's a very Bill Murray-esque thing to do.
I totally agree. Yeah. When I sat down this morning, it was the first thing I saw when I opened Twitter this morning, and I love that story.
Yeah.
He went to
That
see
is cool.
Groundhog 2 nights ago. He went to see it again. I'm showing up tonight, standing outside the
he's gonna be
theater
there?
just to see if he walks in.
America, it's time for some straight talk. You love your phone. Look at you. You hardly put it down. But you don't love that expensive wireless plan, do you? So what if I told you can keep that phone network and number 2 for a lot less? Well, this is me telling you, it's time to switch to Straight Talk, guys. Bring your own phone and get unlimited plans starting at just $45 a month on America's largest, most dependable 4G LTE networks. Straight Talk Wireless, only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
We'll go live to Charlotte in a minute. Andy North will join us as they prepare to play the year's final major championship in golf. And we will see if Jordan Spieth is able to make history. Again, he has one chance and one chance only to become the youngest man ever to complete golf's Grand Slam.
Right.
Because,
Grand Slam, right.
The career Grand Slam. By next year, he will be older than Tiger Woods was when
Tiger
he did
was
it.
just over 24 and a half years old, and Jordan is just 17 days into being 24, but it'll be a year from now. So, as you said, this is it for him.
So we'll get to that with Andy North in just a minute. Meanwhile, a little bit more Twitter reaction to some of the topics that we were discussing, including Johnny Manziel. I made the observation, and it was only because there was a story involving him and his desire perhaps to come back and be a coach on the college level, that we've talked a lot about quarterback openings, as we do every year during the preseason and the training camp portion of the year, and Jay Cutler and Colin Kaepernick. And, of course, each of them have their own – there's a unique nature to each of those stories. But it wasn't until Manziel's name came up that it occurred to me he doesn't even get mentioned.
No, he does not.
It's an afterthought. It's forgotten. He was a first-round pick with practically unprecedented hype 3 years ago. And now he's out of the league, and his phone's not ringing. Yep. And he's one of 4 ever quarterbacks, or at least dating back to 1990, to be drafted in the first round and only play 2 seasons in the NFL.
Yeah, Marinovich in there, too. And Marinovich came out with a ton of hype because of the training with his father and that whole deal and how that went. Obviously, a huge school at USC that he went to and how that went, obviously, very, very poorly. But, yeah, I mean, not. I'm with you. I never even thought of his name when Flacco hurt. Oh, Colin Kaepernick. And never thought, well, how about Manziel? Never even entered my mind. And it obviously doesn't seem to be entering any NFL team's minds either.
No, for obvious reasons. His play on the field was not good, but that's not the reason he's not in anybody's camp. You can't. No one feels they can trust him, and that's why, to your point, if he went to Canada or somewhere else, not only could he work on his skills and demonstrate his ability to play, but he could also get, if he were to show up and be a good citizen and all of that. He went to Canada for 2 years, and the coaches there told NFL coaches, yeah, he's matured, he's changed, he's ready, he can be a leader, he can be someone you can trust. Right. I think that would make a bigger difference than anything else.
Sure it would. Instead of, taking videos of him working out somewhere with a quarterback guru and some team saying, oh, yeah, now I'll take a chance. That's not going to do it. They need to see him in a football environment acting like a professional football player.
So we'll see if that winds up happening. Meanwhile, we've got the final major championship of the golf year on tap. They tee off at Quail Hollow. The first groups go off in about 15 minutes or thereabouts, and our buddy Andy North is getting set to watch all the action with us. He joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Top of the morning, Andy North.
Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Doing well.
We're doing great, and let's start, of course, with Jordan Spieth, who is the story of the week. Again, he can become the youngest male golfer ever to complete the career Grand Slam if he wins. And I just wonder, with the notion of momentum, it's 3 weeks removed from the incredible final round he played at Birkdale, where it looked like he had given it away and then put together one of the great finishing stretches that we've ever seen in major championship golf history. So what would be your best guess as to how that psychologically will impact him and carry over into this week?
Oh, it definitely would be a positive for him. I mean, good gosh, the guy's won 2 of his last 3 starts. He's feeling good about his game. To have in the back of your head what you pulled off at the Open Championship, you never can get too far behind, in his opinion. So it's going to be real positive for him.
As far as that is concerned, going from one tournament to the next, for you, whether you want a major like the U.S. Open or a different tournament, then all of a sudden that next Thursday, if you're playing that following week, and you start to play bad, how quickly does it turn like that to where all of a sudden mentally you're like, wow, I just won a tournament and now I'm starting off bad in this next tournament?
Well, every single week's different. You're traveling in between. You're playing a different type of golf course. The grasses might be different. There's so many different variables in it. But I guarantee you, if you play poorly the first 9 holes or something of the next week after you won a major championship, there's a little bit of self-talk going on that, hey, I can do this. I just proved I could do it. But sometimes it takes so much out of a guy to win a major championship that to play the next week, you see that they usually play well or they play terrible. There's no middle ground. That the energy level could be completely gone, and you need to take some time off and get regrouped a little bit sometimes.
Mike and Mike, Andy North is with us. This is a golf course where Rory McIlroy has traditionally played very well. 3 years ago at the PGA Championship, he had won back-to-back majors. He looked like he was ready to be far and away the best player in the world. It hasn't gone that way. Where do you think he is now, and what do you expect from him this weekend?
Well, I saw it over the last 2 starts for him. He's shown some real positive in his game. I mean, he's drove the ball at Bridgestone unbelievably well during the course of the week. We know that at times he struggles with the putter, but he's, if a guy can drive the ball 330 yards in the middle of the fairway, he's going to have a great chance no matter where he is. And he has so many good vibes at Quail Hollow. He's won there a couple of times. It's a golf course he loves to play. So I think there's a really good opportunity for him this week for us to see the real Rory again. So we'll see, but anything can happen. It's going to be a good golf tournament on a golf course that almost all these guys know pretty darn well, and that's a big deal.
And one of the things that, Mike, I'm not sure if you saw this, but yesterday for a little while, Twitter went crazy. Golf Channel was showing some of these guys on the driving range, and McIlroy was hitting his 3-wood 300 yards in the air. It was carrying 300 yards routinely in the air with a 3-wood. Andy, how far do you, at your pinnacle, after a big breakfast, how far would you have hit a 3-wood?
Well, let's say I couldn't hit it that far. The equipment has definitely changed. The way these guys are going at it now has changed. With the golf ball that we've got now that a lot of people think goes too far, it's amazing. I mean, in our day, if a guy hit a 3-wood 240 yards or something in there, that was a pretty good swat. So it's ridiculous how far everybody's hitting it now, and it's fun to watch, but it's taking really good golf courses and making them almost meaningless.
I mean, I know Rory and I are kind of in that same.
Yeah, you feel that, yeah.
How about what Dustin Johnson had a 440-yard drive or something? It was
longest, yeah.
Ridiculous. Well, it wasn't too long ago, Andy, that we were talking about Spieth and Rory and Dustin Johnson and Jason Day. What's been up with Jason Day? I know he's had the situation with his mom, but he certainly has been struggling.
Well, he's had a few little health things thrown in there also, and you get to you have to be so fine-tuned to go on these runs like we saw Dustin early in the year, and then all of a sudden it doesn't go that way. There's so many things that are part of trying to play good golf, and we see these guys go through these stretches. We are so spoiled. They are the norm. When you play really well for a while, then you don't play very, very well for a while. That's normal. What wasn't normal was watching Tiger every week where he had a chance to win every time he played over 15 years. That's ridiculous. So we're seeing more of what this game should be, where guys go through stretches of 6 months, they play great, then they struggle a little bit. And it's confidence, it's timing, it's stuff going on at home. I mean, there's so many different variables. So, and you can't, when you've got a bad day going, you can't bring the left-hander out of the bullpen to help you. So that's part of it. You have to struggle through some of your struggles.
Andy North with us, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. So who wins it? Who do you like? Who's our money on this weekend?
Well, I'm going to throw something so off the tracks at you guys. We talk about golf courses for horses. We throw that around. Phil Mickelson's played this golf course unbelievably well. I mean, 2/3 of his starts there, he's finished in the top 10. Half of his starts there, he's been in the top 5. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the old man gets it together this week and gets it around. So, it's so hard to pick guys. You got to love the way Rory's playing. You got to love the way Jordan's playing. But there's so many other guys. Charlie Hoffman has come off a really nice run. He's been playing some really good golf, and he's played well in all the majors this year. So there's a ton of guys. But I'm going to go so off the track here and say, hey, Phil's going to win, just to create some some stuff out there.
That.
I love the pick. 100% love it. Quickly, Andy, before we let you go.
And then he walks off into the sunset.
Yeah. This year and next, and then starting in 2019, they're moving the PGA Championship to May. And I think there are a lot of different reasons to do it, many of which make a lot of sense to me. What do you think of that?
Well, I think, it's funny. We have players have talked in players' meetings for 40 years about trying to get the schedule condensed a little bit. I think it makes an awful lot of sense. You've got the first couple of months of the year, you get going. You got the players in March. You got the Masters in April. You got the PGA now in May. Then the U.S. Open and the Open Championship. I think it makes an awful lot of sense. You've got one really big event in each of the 4 months or 5 months in that stretch. You've got other tournaments that are great tournaments that you'll lead up to in that period of time. I think it makes an awful lot of sense. I mean, let's be realistic. Not a lot of people care about our sport once football starts. And, if you poll 90% of the players, they don't. So I think that's a real problem is that, we've all talked about this for years and years and years, that maybe there's too much golf. And if it's on every day and every week, people at home don't look forward to watching it on TV on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. So Commissioner Monahan's done a great job of trying to get this organized, and I think he's going to be a great leader for our group, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of years.
All right, we'll wait and watch. Again, final major of the championship of the year is this weekend, and we'll see if Jordan Spieth is able to make history. Andy, thank you so much. Enjoy it. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Andy.
It's Andy North with us, Mike and Mike, on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today.
So, again, as Spieth is trying to become the youngest to get the career Grand Slam, he's not the favorite. The favorite's Rory McIlroy, 7-1. Spieth is 8-1. It goes down to the top 8. 7 and 8 are Jason Day and Brooks Koepka at 25-1. No Phil Mickelson in any of that. I just quickly Googled odds for the PGA Championship, and I've seen a couple that say Phil Mickelson, while he's played well there, feels like he's reached the point of the season where he's running on fumes, misses the cut. That's what a few of the predictions are that I've been reading.
I'll take the over on that, or whatever it is, the over or the under. I think I agree with Andy. I don't know if he'll win,
right,
but I think he'll play very well this weekend. He has not had a great couple of weeks here. He's not had a great stretch. And he didn't play well at the British Open, obviously, and he didn't play the U.S. Open with his daughter's graduation. But history tells you the golf course is one that he plays well. By the way, it is the 100th career major for him and the 100th career major for Ernie Els. They basically came along at the same time. Did you see the picture that was going around of the two of them this week? Oh, my God. Look at this. For in case you want to see it, I just posted it on Instagram so you could see it. It's at ESPN Greeny on Instagram. That's the two of them having competed in a junior championship tournament. However many years ago it is.
Is that in the 60s?
Ernie Els on the left with the winner's trophy. If you look at it closely, he's got a big smile.
Yeah, he
Phil's
does.
got the runner-up trophy and no smile whatsoever.
Smile at all, yeah.
It is a classic picture.
Second place, just first loser.
Of those two guys, again, who are now playing their 100th majors. And I put it up on Instagram if you want to see it at ESPN Greeny. Phil tees off today at 125. Playing with Jimmy Walker, who was the defending champ and has had a very tough year. Jason Duffner is also playing in that group. So we'll keep a close eye on that. Actually, let's do a little nerd note.
Nerd alert! Nerd alert! News you didn't even know you needed or even want.
Well, if I was you, I'd do something about it.
These are Mike and Mike's Nerd Notes.
All right, Nerd Notes brought to you by Dell. Need help finding the right Dell PCs with Intel Core processors for your business? Call 877-BUY-DELL to talk to a Dell Small Business Tech Advisor.
Nerd alert!
All right, we've talked about it many times, but Jordan Spieth, coming off winning the Open Championship in thrilling fashion last month, can become the 6th men's golfer in history to capture the career Grand Slam.
Yeah, again, Tiger Woods was a little over 24 and a half years old. He did it back in 2000, so it's obviously been a little while ago. And then, as we mentioned, Jordan's only attempt to do this. So a little bit of pressure there, but that would be something to see.
I'd love to see him.
I would.
Off the top.
Meanwhile, the PGA Championship, and I should have hit the Nerd Notes one.
Nerd alert!
I hit the wrong button. Score that when he won, if you're keeping track at home. The PGA Championship, Mike, regularly plays as the easiest of the year's 4 majors, Mike, as the guys you would anticipate them going low at Quail Hollow.
Yeah, I guess so. What was the Open this year that really ticked me off? I mean, what was the winning score?
At the U.S. Open, it was insanely.
Yeah.
The score was insanely low at Erin Hills. What did he win at Koepka? 16 under, something like that?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So, you know me, I hate that stuff.
You like it when it's like 1 over.
Come on.
Golick likes to see
struggle.
Nerd alert!
All right, since 2009, 6 of the 8 winners of the PGA Championship were first-time major winners. The only one during that span that had previously won a major was Rory McIlroy, who, again, loves this golf course.
He's favored in this golf course, but I do think it's going to be a former winner,
major winner
who wins this. Yes.
Who's your pick?
I'm going with Jordan.
You're going with Jordan Spieth. I'd love to see him do it.
Nerd alert!
Phil Mickelson and Ernie Els, as we mentioned, both members of the Golf Hall of Fame, each playing in their 100th career major. Between them, they have 9 wins and 17 runner-up finishes in majors. It feels like all of those are Phil's at the U.S. Open.
How about it?
And one more.
Nerd alert!
It'll be the first major ever hosted at Quail Hollow, the first PGA Championship held in North Carolina since 1974. Of course, the state has routinely hosted U.S. Opens at Pinehurst No. 2. So Golick has Spieth.
Nerd alert!
Andy North sort of threw a little crazy one
at
you with Phil Mickelson. I mean, that certainly would be, I think a lot of people who love the sport would be delighted and surprised to see Mickelson win. I do think he'll play well, but it's sort of tough to pick him to win. McIlroy plays well there.
Are we waiting for Dustin Johnson to kind of get back in the groove again? And I'm really picking Spieth. I don't know. I'm picking Spieth because I want to see it. I want to see him be the youngest.
And he feels on a roll. I mean, it just
he does.
If that isn't a shot of adrenaline, look.
What is a roll, though, in golf? I mean,
I think it is that psychological confidence that you were asking Andy about. Like, here's the thing. It's recency bias or however that works in psychology. After what happened to him at the Masters now a year and a half ago, where he basically got the tournament won, and he has the disaster that befalls him on 12.
Cabins,
I'm sure then that what winds up happening then is you go through a little period of time where you worry about the next disastrous thing that might happen.
Right.
I'm injecting my own psychology into the minds of these guys who have trained their minds to be the best in the world at the most psychological sport we have. I got to believe the reverse happens now. He gave the tournament away last week and then came back and won by putting together one of the great 5-hole stretches the sport has ever seen. So I have to believe that does carry over, that if you have a bad hole or two, you think to yourself, I got this, no problem.
Yeah. I could see that. I mean, there's no doubt it's a mental sport, which is, why you're in therapy.
Is he the closest thing that we have to someone who could take the sport to a level of pop? If he goes on some kind of crazy tear.
I just don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, he's playing well, and I get it. He could be the youngest to do that, and beating out anything that Tiger has done, given the career Tiger's had, would be a monumental thing. But with the group of really good young players now, do I think someone is going to separate and do something like this? No, we've already discussed this with both Spieth and McIlroy at one point, and then with Dustin Johnson flirting in there a little bit as well, and it just happened. It hasn't happened. So I don't see I don't see anytime soon where we're going Jordan Spieth or the field.
Right.
Rory McIlroy or the field. I don't see that happening.
I totally agree with you on that. I guess what I really mean is Tiger Woods moved the needle like no one else has in that sport in our lifetime. You probably have to go back to Arnold Palmer to name someone who had as significant, whose presence alone was as significant in the sport as Tiger's was. And Spieth isn't going to be that. No one who's playing right now could possibly be that. But the closest thing, I mean, you just heard Andy North telling us no one cares about the sport when football started. Well, they did when Tiger was playing.
They did.
When Tiger was playing, I remember we used to say there were 4 major sports. There was basketball, baseball, football, and golf when Tiger was playing.
Yeah, I mean, he was the
Spieth
draw.
Become that.
No, I don't think so. Not that. Not must-see TV, have to turn it on every time he's in a – even when Tiger was coming back and wasn't competitive, you still turned it on. You turned it on to see what he was doing. So, no, I just don't see it happening.
No, there is no effect like the Tiger effect, but he's the closest thing. Let's put it this way. Rory McIlroy could become far and away the best player in the world. And so could almost anyone else. I think Spieth is the guy who would drive the most people.
Right.
There's something about that about him that I think people would like over Dustin Johnson. McIlroy's not an American. I think that makes in this country. I think that makes a difference, of course, and some of the others. So we'll see. Anyway, PGA Championship, get going today. Don't bother trying to get a hold of me this afternoon.
I won't.
I have plans.
Yeah.
I'm going to be watching. How about that group teeing off today at 1:35? It's Rahm. Who did I say it was? It's Rahm, Rory, and who's the third one in that group again? It's a fabulous group playing at that time. I forget. I read it earlier this morning on Twitter. But whatever it is, I'll be parked in front of the TV
to watch my hair.
Ricky Fowler. It's Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, and Ricky Fowler tee off together at 1:35.
That's when I wash my hair every day. Sorry.
Are you going to watch it or not? Are you into this or not? Will you watch the PGA?
I will have it on. It won't stay on. I'll have it on, though, and I'll go back and forth to it, yeah.
Because this is one, I know a lot of people, the casual golf fans, really don't even put this one in the same category with the other majors. Like they will watch the Masters, they'll watch the two Opens, and they don't watch this.
Those others are more appointment viewing than this one is to me, yes. Well, Greeny, we're halfway through another baseball season, and we're really seeing some players who stand out as winners.
Kind of like business travelers who win at business by staying at La Quinta Inns and Suites.
That's because you can put your La Quinta Returns loyalty points to work on the spot with instant free nights.
Just drive up with no reservation and instantly redeem points for a free night that same night simply by using the La Quinta app.
It's like hitting a grand slam.
With an app instead of a bat.
Well played.
Prepare to win at business by learning more about instant free nights and check out the summer rates at lq.com.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
All right, we are Mike and Mike, and we're very pleased to welcome to our studio now the co-author of the memoir written by John Saunders shortly before his death, Playing Hurt, My Journey from Despair to Hope. John U. Bacon is in our studio, and those of you just watching with us on television saw a little piece that Bob Lee put together about John. And John U. Bacon, first off, welcome, and you mentioned that as you watched that, it sort of made you emotional to see it and hear Bob's words.
Bob did a great job, as usual, and it's hard to believe that he's gone.
This, I think, for people that saw John and what he did here and just knowing him from his time at ESPN, I would imagine, and from your side of it, they would be shocked to read this and hear of all the things that he went through.
Even his closest friends, Bob Lee and Chris Berman from 30 years ago, those guys are shocked. Some friends of his from high school are shocked. John told almost nobody the whole story. Even Wanda, his wife, found out a few things in this book that she did not know. Look, John went through physical abuse, sexual abuse, self-mutilation, self-medication, concussions, overarched by depression throughout, and he did not talk to many people about it.
When did he approach you? When did you start talking about doing this?
We met 20 years ago at a charity hockey game, actually. I'm a high school hockey player of little note. And on my left were the Hanson brothers. On my right was John Saunders, so I'll talk to him, I guess. So we started talking 20 years ago and kept it up. We're going to do a book on Madison Square Garden, actually. And then in the midst of this, in 2011, he stands up too quickly on the set of ABC College Football. He blacks out. He falls backwards. He bangs his head so hard he split his head open, basically. And that put him into Mount Sinai for 6 weeks to relearn how to walk and talk and read and write. And, you know, concussion victims and whatnot, this is quite severe. And that's when John and I started talking about doing this. It had to be his idea. You can't push a man to write a book like this. And we had checked it out with his doctors to make sure it was helping him, not hurting him, to write it. But we started in 2012.
And when you started this, and you're right, it had to be from his side of it. Was he open right off the bat, or did it take a bit to really get it going?
The former, actually, which when you read the book, you're going to be shocked. You'd be more shocked to sit down with John and have him just spill all the stuff, you know, without any compunction whatsoever. And I think that probably comes from 15, 20 years of therapy where he's used to talking about his feelings. John, as you know, is a very sharp guy, can articulate a wide range of things. But he pulled no punches in this book or in person.
Why do you think, sorry, Greeny, why do you think he didn't, he was open to you to, I guess you get to a point. Why do you think he wasn't open to others earlier?
That's a very good question, and one I never asked him, but if I had to guess, it's two things. One, he loved his job here immensely, and ESPN was extremely good to him. He said this was his best drug because while you do what you guys are doing, and no one but John and a few others know how complicated your jobs are, there's a guy talking into the earpiece right now telling him what to do next. He feared losing that work. That's one thing. And second of all, this is sports. As Joe Biden, the vice president, said to John on a train on the way back from a conference at the White House, you can come out as a gay football player, you can come out as a gay basketball player. You can't come out as a depressed athlete while you're playing because they won't trust you, you might lose your job. So I think John was genuinely afraid of that, and he was a tough guy. So this is all on his mind, I believe.
John U. Bacon is in our studio, again, co-author of John Saunders' memoir, which is called Playing Hurt, My Journey from Despair to Hope, and it's available now. Do you believe that the process of writing the book, which obviously took years, was therapeutic for him?
From Dr. Carolyn Douglas, who's quoted a lot in the book, we know that it was. And John told me that as well. And that was vital to me. We said to the very last minute, if this is not helping you, we'll pull the contract, we'll do whatever, because obviously putting John in a tailspin is not worth anything. But it really was helpful, and my heartbreak now, of course, is that this should be him in this chair naturally, doing the victory lap, getting the big bear hug from the world. But even the manuscript being accepted meant so much to John, that he could come clean, and the biggest goal was to help the millions of others who suffered from this.
What was the hardest thing for him to talk about to you?
His father. With all the other things going on, his dad's abuse would get him choked up, even at age 60. And what that told me, what John said, is that the bruises wear off. The sense of worthlessness that you get from being abused is something you fight the rest of your life. Because a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old is not going to blame his father, even though he should. You can't. That's the guy in charge of your house. You blame yourself. And you internalize that, and even in your 50s and 60s, that's still hard to shake.
I think a lot of people look at this. Depression is a disease. I've talked about it on the air many times. And we see stories that don't end happily, and they wonder, how is it that someone can appear, as public a figure as John Saunders was, can appear one way and in reality be suffering so much? How did you see that dichotomy in him?
Both are true. I'll say that what you saw on TV was not, you knew him quite well, I'm sure both you did. It was not phony. It was really John. It was only one part of him, tip of an iceberg. John said about this work, it is so demanding that it was the greatest drug he could have because you can't be anywhere else when you're doing this. Now, when you hand out the football in New Orleans to Nick Saban, you go home to your hotel room and you cry for an hour. That's what John would do. But amazingly kept those two things largely separate. I think historically they say men have an easier time compartmentalizing their lives than women. That's a stereotype, granted. But John was exceedingly good at that.
He was also exceedingly good at hockey. He wanted to be a pro hockey player, and he wasn't for a variety of reasons. How much do you think that added to all of this?
The concussions added quite a bit, and we know that discussion quite well, of course, on your show. What John made clear is that concussions themselves do not necessarily make you depressed. It's not a direct link. But when you can't walk and talk and read and write, and you have no idea if you're going to get these things back, all right, then you might get depressed. John, after this accident in 2011 on the set, John had an IQ of 154. Now he's down to 102. They gave him 10 pegs and 10 holes. It took him 6 minutes to put 10 pegs into 10 holes. This is not a dumb guy. And that will make you very depressed. So the hockey definitely figured in quite a bit. And John had, they say if you had 10 concussions, you probably had 20. And John, if you read the book, he was he was not a finesse player, let's put it that way. Yeah. So.
And so more on that, because for those of us who haven't had the chance to read it yet, I have the copy and I'm looking forward to reading it. How about the hockey career and what that meant to him and how, in your mind, as one who knew him and went through this process, this therapeutic process of writing the book, where did hockey figure into all of it?
Strongly. And that was his first big dream, was not ESPN, was being a pro hockey player. His brother Bernie made it to the NHL, actually, for 10 games with the Nordiques. John was a very good player, coached by Jacques Demers as a junior player, actually, as well as his brother. But John was also into self-medication at that point, even, as he says, dealt drugs out of his locker in high school. So that held him back some. And then concussions, injuries, shoulders, you name it, you know how this stuff goes. But that, when he lost that, very quickly, broadcasting took over. He needed something else for confirmation, for validation. Without his dad, his support. It was great to feel a crowd cheering for you, and now it's great to hear an audience cheering for you as well. He starts out in Ajax, Ontario, as Country John Saunders on Sunday morning playing Baptist sermons. I'm not making that part up.
So in sitting with him and talking to him time after time for this, what was your biggest takeaway?
two things, and I don't suffer from depression, so I'm translating for John, and that was the trickiest thing. One, as Mike already said, it's a disease. And trying to cure depression by saying, suck it up, works about as well as cold medicine for cancer. It's far deeper. You need help. And second thing is you can get help. And there's plenty of help out there. The success rate of treatment for depression is very high, but you have to get the treatment for depression for that to work. And men, military guys, athletes are the three categories that are least likely to ask for help.
And so what do you believe, or what do you hope, and I know that you mentioned a moment ago, it should have been John sitting in that chair talking about this book, but what do you hope beyond that people will take from this about him? We understand spreading the word about the challenges of depression, but how about him, about John, about the man that he was?
All this aside, John was a really good guy. And he's not just a guy with a disease, not just a victim here by any means. You can have all this. You can be a diabetic and be a great guy, obviously. You can have this disease, and he was a great husband, as you know, a great father. That was his biggest fear, is not being repeating his dad's mistakes. He did not. And he's a ton of fun to be around. And believe it or not, about every 5 or 10 pages, you might laugh. John, as you know, had a great belly laugh, even while talking about the worst things in his life. At my home in Ann Arbor, here in New York, during our many visits, John would make me laugh every 15 or 20 minutes. That is a remarkable man.
Again, the book is called Playing Hurt, My Journey from Despair to Hope. John U. Bacon is the co-author of the memoir of our friend John Saunders. And as I mentioned a few moments ago, also in John's memory, over $600,000 have been raised so far for pediatric cancer through the V Foundation. He was a founding member of the board of directors of the V Foundation, very active with that, and we know how incredibly important that was to him in his life as well. John, thank you for coming and for sharing this story. We appreciate it very much. Mike, it's hard to... it's hard to really know what to say in circumstances.
It really
like
is
this.
because it's nothing we knew. I mean, even his closest friends didn't know a lot of this. So while we knew him, we weren't in the inner circle of him. But if those people didn't even know, I mean, this is all was shocking to me.
To all of us.
To hear and read all of this.
To all of us. Again, the book is available now. I'm definitely looking forward to reading it immediately.
Guys don't really talk about antiperspirant. Despite that, 91% of Dove Men Plus Care users recommend it. Here's what they said.
It blocks the, perspiration, I think is the fancy word.
It's comfortable. It smells nice. My girl likes the smell.
Well, I don't know. It's hard. I think it's quite masculine. My underarms aren't the worst thing at the gym.
It's kind of like the Hoover Dam from my armpits, I guess.
Dove Men Plus Care Antiperspirant. Tough on sweat, not on skin.
Some more Twitter reaction as we turn back to some of the sports topics of the day. Phil Ross tweets that the Tiger effect had a lot to do with him being a minority. To have the same effect in golf, we'd need another minority superstar.
There was way more that went into it outside of just being the most dominant golfer in a period of time that we've seen, without question.
It was, to use an overused phrase, the perfect storm
of
circumstances. So, correct. There will not be that. Even another player, if Jordan Spieth were to win at the rate that Tiger won, and I don't think we're going to see anyone win at that rate, those guys come along maybe once every 30 years or so. Even if Spieth or anyone currently on the tour were to win at that rate, they wouldn't have the impact on the sport.
No,
that
they
Tiger
would not.
Did.
No.
I agree with that. What else have we got here? Dave, because the Browns bought into that hype doesn't mean that Manziel was worthy of being a first-round pick, unlike Ryan Leaf. Listen, Dave, I don't know what to tell you.
Dave, you're completely wrong. The Browns felt he was a number one pick. The Browns felt his play on the field. The Browns didn't draft him in the first round because of him being a good, a guy that went out and had fun and won a Heisman. They broke him down as a football player and felt he was a first-round pick, and it was a bad pick. They felt he was worthy of a number one pick. That's all it takes is one person. It was the same way, with other quarterbacks that we've talked about failing in the first round. Those teams felt they were first-round caliber players.
And they weren't the only ones. He was going to go in the first round. I remember that it was a surprise that he lasted as long as he did in that draft that year. Okay, let's go around the world of sports with Over Under. It's brought to you by La Quinta. Book at LQ.com and win at business. Our staff has put together some over-unders for us here. Go look, let's see which way we go. On touchdown passes that Jay Cutler will throw this year, they have placed the over-under at 21. And that, by the way, is the number of touchdowns he threw his last year with Adam Gase as his offensive coordinator in Chicago in 2015. So touchdown passes Jay Cutler this year, 21 over-under.
I think I'll go over. I think he has better cast around him. So I do think we'll see what kind of protection he gets from the line. I think Tannehill was sacked 29 times last year, and the last time Cutler played a full season, I think it was right around the same number. So I'm going to say the same thing. I like his weapons, and I think it'll be over that.
The big question there is staying healthy.
Sure.
Like that's the one that would worry me the most. So I guess if I had to bet on it, I will bet that he will, and so I also would go over. How about the number of interceptions? He threw 11 that year with Adam Gase, so the over-under on Jay Cutler picks this year is 11.
I think he goes over that as well. I do think so, because I think, remember the last time he started, he was 6-9 as a starter. I do think this team will be fighting for a playoff spot. Not the division.
He's going to hand that ball to Jay Ajayi a lot.
Yes, he is. But to make some, he's also going to have to make some plays throwing the ball for a team that's going to be in it a lot longer, I believe, than his team in Chicago when he had this year. So I believe that will relate to more turnovers.
I'll say this. I don't think anyone has ever gone broke betting on Jay Cutler throwing picks. So no. I'll go over as well. Next over-under is 116.5. That's the number of wins the Dodgers finish with this season. The record is the 2001 Mariners, who won 116. Right now, they're on pace to win 114.5 games. Paul, how are they on pace to win 114.5 games? Because they've played an odd number of games that it adds up to that.
They're 80-33, right? They're 80-33, so it's 113 games, so they have 49 more to go, right?
Okay.
49 more to go, so they need 37 wins to get 117.
I'll buy that.
Well, 80-37 is 117.
Okay,
That's not
difficult. With you. Are they going to break the record or not?
No, they're not. They're not going to break.
They're so far ahead that they won't have to play, late in the season, and so I agree they will not.
So they need
an unbelievable season.
They need to win 37 of their last 49 games to do it.
I'm going to go under as well. You lost me with some of that, but I'm going to go under. You lost
Did I
me
make
in the
it
numbers.
easier? They have 49 games to go. They need to win 37 of them to break the record.
Here's what I'm going to say. For them to go over, they'd have to win 117 games, which has never been done in the history of the sport. I'm going to take the under.
Okay.
Let's leave it at that. Next, over-under at -12, the final score for the winner of the PGA Championship this year. Since 2000, the average winning score to par is basically 11 under. By far the lowest of any of the major championships. Will the winner be 12 under or no?
Not going to lie. I don't know a lot about this course, if it's difficult
Plays
or
easy.
not.
No, it's not difficult.
I want it to be under, but it's going to be over.
I don't know if that would be considered under or over.
You know what I mean? It's going to be a better score.
Correct.
Than yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Next, over-under on the number of wide receivers that will go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame next year at 1.5. Remember, Randy Moss is a first-time eligible next year. Terrell Owens is inexplicably still not in. So will they both get in next year, over under 1.5?
I'll go under. Say 1.
Me too. Paul, I hate to ask you this, but what's the last time 2 receivers went in the same year?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's happened. There's probably one recently that I'm just not remembering. But it's hard to get those guys in.
Yeah, it is. I think it'll just be 1.
Yeah, remember how long it took him to get in and a lot of these other guys. Which one will it be? Will they put Moss in his first year and jump him over T.O.?
I think they'll put Moss in.
Was he a markedly better player than T.O.?
Listen, I don't want to say markedly. I think he was a better player than T.O. I would take him, but that's like splitting hairs. But I absolutely positive now. And it's also like Randy Moss didn't have a few issues himself, but I absolutely think these voters are really holding a whole lot against T.O.
I agree. I'll go under. All right, last one. Over-under on the number of total points the Jets will score this season. The over-under is 140. That is the record for the fewest. The 1992 Seahawks scored the fewest points in a 16-game season with 140. Will the Jets break that record, over-under?
Under 140, sorry.
Under 140? I'm actually going to say over because I think that Seahawks team had a great defense, so they were playing in close games. I think that the Jets are going to be in so many garbage time games, they'll score garbage time points. They'll go over 140, but not by much. Not by much. That's a really depressing way
that is.
For us to finish over-unders with Mike and Mike, brought to you by La Quinta. We had a lot more football to get to here. Quarterback questions are out there. We'll get to those with Brian Billick, our first appearance from Brian Billick of what we could officially call the 2017 NFL season.